I'm not going to lie to you. The beginning of this fall sports season has been rough on me. I've made so many mistakes so far. Luckily, it's just through two games, and I can hopefully can recover from them. But man, I've made some mistakes over the last couple of games. I kind of wanted to go over the kind of whole setup that I've been using and some of the mistakes that I've made through the first two games of the season. Okay, we'll kind of start off with the lens. I'm using the 35 to 150 Tamron, and we're going to go in that lens a little bit. But the first thing I did wrong was I used the mist filter. Mist filters are great, but if you can control what's going on in your shot. But when you can't control what's going on in your shot, they have a tendency to just kind of mess everything up. And for that reason, I'm about done using them, really. I just don't know if the juice is worth a squeeze in the end. I mean, if you get just a little bit of light shining on your lens, it just kind of blows out the whole shot, makes everything look like super grainy and pixelated and pretty much terrible. Again, if you can control what the light is doing, what you're taking with the shots you're taking with your camera, it can create this kind of dreamy effect, and that's kind of neat, But when you're sitting at a football game, you don't know if the sun's going to be shining straight down on you. You don't know what the stadium lights are going to be shooting right down on you. It's just not worth taking a mist filter with you. And I even use eighth power. It's not very strong at all, but I mean, it has messed up a lot of shots so far. So I'm done with the mist filter, at least for sports shooting, and maybe overall. We could talk about the Tamron 335 to 152 to 2.8. Man, it's a great lens for sports shooting, particularly what I do, because I need that extra width on the wide end. Like last year, I was using the 70 to 180 Tamron, and the 180 was great. It gets you what you needed. But sometimes you need a wider shot, and the 70 wouldn't allow you to do that. This lens allows you to get that extra wide shot, be able to take, because I'm fairly close to my subjects, and sometimes I want to get the whole squad in the field of view, and the 35 allows me to do that, and that's great. 150 is pretty good. I mean, I wish I still had a little bit more telephoto reach at the long end, but in that scenario, on my A7R5, I just go into APS-C mode, and I'm able to get what I need, basically. So 35 to 150, 2 to 2.8 is a really good lens for what I've been doing. The only downside of this lens is it's just massively heavy. I mean, it is massively heavy. And anybody that says this might be a walk-around lens or a lens you can take on vacation, I have to highly disagree with that just because it's so freaking heavy. I mean, I'll get a little bit more into it later, the problems that the weight has caused me, but man, it is heavy on your camera. Let's talk about the A7R5. Okay, first of all, it's a great camera for this simply because of the autofocus features of the camera. There's no doubt about that. But there are certain things that I've messed up while using this camera, and it's caused a lot of problems so far with my sports photography. Number one is the custom dial. Now, you would think that would be awesome, So I set my custom dial on my photos. I'm in manual, and my video I'm in manual, and I have it set to like my sports settings, Well, the problem is I want to start off at the beginning of the game at f4 or 5.6, higher aperture, and as the game wears on, I want to decrease the aperture as the light gets worse. I want to go down to 2.8. Well, the problem with that is when you switch from video to photo, it won't remember the settings you just switched. Say I'm in the photo mode and it's set at 4. Okay, that's what I have it set on. And I'll flip it down to 2.8. I flip over to video mode and it does what it does. And then I go back to photo mode and then it's at F4 again. So I have to make sure that I remember to flip it down to F2.8. And that's created a little bit of a problem because it won't remember where you are, And if you're not paying, really close attention, you're not getting the shot that you want, and your ISO is bumping way up. To change it, you have to go in and make changes, to the custom mode itself, like, memory set type stuff in the menus. And you really don't want to do that. You just want to be able to change whatever settings you want, and the camera remember that for at least a brief period of time, and then maybe change them back later or something. I mean, if you ever use the Fuji camera and the new Fuji cameras, they seem to do that right. They give you an option to either save the changes or don't save the changes that you make to your custom settings. And I wish that was part of the Sony, because, you know, like I say, I want to be at f2.8, but when I switch it back, that's the f4. If I don't remember to switch it back, then I'm an f4, and my ISO goes way crazy. So that's kind of a bummer. So what I wind up doing is just putting the camera on manual setting itself, get all the settings that I want, and then just flip it back from video to photo and, you know, use it that way. But I don't use my custom settings, which is not a big deal unless I've made a change previously using my camera some other time. And like, for instance, the last time I was out shooting, I usually keep it on auto white balance, but I was out shooting the supermoon and I changed the white balance up. And when I went into the manual mode, my white balance was set way off, and I didn't know it till about, you know, halfway through the game that my white balance was off. Picture still looked okay, but, you know, it's just one of those things. It's just a lot of stuff to remember to change. It would be nice if you could just use the custom modes, make any changes to the exposure triangle and save those, maybe until you turn the camera off or something like that. I don't know. Another big mistake that I've made is and it has to do with the weight of this lens, okay? Like, I was taking a bunch of video, and when I would go through and start looking at my video clips, I'm like, why would I cut the shot off right there? Why am I cutting right there? Why am I stopping recording at that particular instance? I thought I was recording way more than that. And then I would just kind of shut off the recording in the middle of them doing their, you know, palm thing. I was like, I thought the first time I thought it was something that had to do with the camera. Maybe you saw the video about that the last one I did about this. I was like, what is going on with my camera? Like, something's weird is going on. And then the very next game, it did basically the same thing. I was like, what is going on? You know, like, and then I would test my camera. I would take it out, test it. I would do all these test recordings. I could never get it to duplicate that. And I'm like, what is going on here? Well, here's the problem, okay? Like, when you extend this lens all the way like that right there and hold it up over your head maybe a little bit to kind of get the people in front of you, you want to get their head out of the shot. When you hold it up like that, my finger goes right across the record button, right across there. And that's just where it normally sit. And because the camera's so heavy, when I go up like that, it is actually hitting the record button and stopping my recordings. Like, I'll start recording, then I'll lift up, and then, or, you know, bounce the camera or move it or something, and I'm hitting the record button and it's stopping my recording. And I think that is the problem. I think I've kind of figured it out, hopefully. But because that lens is so heavy, it's causing me to do that. So I'm going to have to reprogram that particular button, the record button, to something else. Probably nothing. I probably won't even set it, because I use a shutter button to start recording anyway. And, you know, I want something on there that's not going to affect anything have to do with the recording. So I think I'm going to have to just set it to nothing, hopefully, you know, and go from there. But, man, hopefully this is going to get better. I have, you know, games coming up this week and throughout the rest of the season. It always takes a little bit of getting used to and kind of remembering the steps and what you go through to get the shots. But I'm pretty happy with the setup. It's just getting used to it again, getting everything exactly how you want it can be a little bit of a challenge. Hope that helps you. If you've liked this video, hit the like button, subscribe, all that stuff. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next one.